Today we're going to be tying a black woolly bugger. We're going to start off with a number 2 mustad hook, and when you get them out of the package, there's a barb on the hook. You're going to want to take your forceps and pinch that barb. That makes it so if you ever hook yourself, it'll come out easier. So we're going to start by getting a 3/16 gold bead and placing it at the head of our hook. And then we're just going to be using a black thread. So we're going to get that started on the shank of the hook. Take our scissors, trim the extra off, and we're going to run our thread to where the barb of the hook used to be. And then we're ready for our next step. The next step is you're going to want some marabou. With the marabou, you're going to want to pinch it and run it through your fingers until you're left with just the end. When you're at the end, you're going to want to measure it to be about the same length as the hook. And then you'll switch hands, and with 2 or 3 loose wraps, you'll get it to stay put before cinching it down and giving it a couple of tighter wraps. And then with the feather, put that in our scrap pile, and then run the thread back up to the head of the hook, securing our tail and marabou. Then the next step is you're going to want some silver wire, and you're going to get off about 4 or so inches of it. So just kind of eyeball it. It's better to be long than short. Cut that. So we've got about 4 inches of wire, and we're going to tie that into the tail of our fly with some good tight wraps to keep it in place. Then we're going to take some hackle, pick out a good looking piece, and tie in the tips at the back of the fly. Then I use some super glue right there where the wire and the hackle got tied in, just a small amount to keep it from spinning and coming out. Okay. And then the way I run a body on the woolly buggers I've been tying lately is using some dubbing. So for a black woolly bugger, I'm going to use some black dubbing. And with a bigger fly, it doesn't have to be a really nice wrap of dubbing. Just kind of has to get on there. Thread the noodle and wrap it up the shank of the hook. And with a bigger fly like this, you're going to need to add a good bit of dubbing. Okay. And then you're going to grab some hackle pliers and use those to grip the back of the hackle, and helps you hold on to it better. And then run hackle slowly from the back of the fly to near the front. I'm not going to take it all the way up because we have one more step before we can get to the front. Okay, so now that I'm almost to the front, I'm going to grab the silver wire that we tied into the back. With the silver wire, we're going to be careful not to smash down any of the hackle, or we're going to rib the body of the fly with the silver wire, also keeping the hackle secured to the body of the fly. And once you get the wire to the front, you can go ahead and secure that down with a couple of thread wraps behind and in front of the wire. And then I'll go ahead and trim off the extra as close to the base as possible, and go ahead and throw away the little scrap of wire. And then I'm going to finish wrapping the hackle up to the front of the fly, and usually I like to try to get about 2 wraps of the hackle on top of each other right at the front, just to give it a clean looking head of the fly. So then we'll tie down our hackle and go ahead and trim that off as close to the base as we can get. And then we're going to take our hands and pull the hackle back a little bit, creating just a small head of the fly, which also helps to keep the hackle in a rearward position. And then we'll grab a whip finishing tool and throw a couple of whip finishes on it. Okay, and then tighten that up, trim off the thread, and then if there's any bits of hackle fibers that got pushed forwards, you can just trim those off. And then I take super glue again and I put a small drop on the bottom of the fly where I finished the whip finish. And then I'll use a small needle to help spread the super glue over the thread wraps in the front. And then I'll take a piece of foam and slide the woolly bugger on and let it dry, and then we'll add it with the other ones. Okay guys, hope you liked the video. Make sure to go down below, subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you next time.